Okay. Alright, perfect. As we get started, there are a few hand signals, right? Group management tools. So before we go, how many of us are Agile coaches? Okay. How many of us are the teachers? How many of us are the trainers? Okay. How many of us are the Scrum Masters?
Scrum Master.
Perfect. How many of us are the managers?
What?
Business owners.
Business.
Okay. How many of us are parents?
Parents.
There you go. There you go. Okay. So take this session as your opportunity to teach anybody. Now these are some methods which you will learn today in this session for 1.5 hours. These are the some techniques which you can use to teach any of the adults. Now with that, whatever discussion we just had, or maybe before we go, give me one number between 1 to 10. Just one number, pick and just shout it out. 7. There you go. So how about the discussion which you just had? Give me 7 different ways the way human beings learn.
By doing.
1.
Observation.
Reading.
1 by 1.
Observing.
2.
Listening.
3.
Doing.
Seeing.
4. 5.
Failing.
6.
Teaching. By teaching.
7.
Writing.
Perfect. Well, have one more. Which is
Writing.
Right. Okay. Perfect. So, whatever methods you just mentioned, these are all the methods by which human beings learn. Now, in this session, we will add to whatever you already know. We will actually look on the business practice. We will also look on the brain science principles, the way you can teach adult anything. Now, if you see, there are some Agile Manifesto for accelerated learning. In here, if you see, we have all those techniques showed up on the board. Now we will be looking at these in detail, and let's see what we have next. If I ask you one question, which is, when does learning happen?
Anytime, every time. The moment we born.
Okay, that's an interesting observation. Okay, look at this. What do you see? What if I say, when you think like a child? Because? Any reason? Because at that time you do not have any pre-notions. You think like a child. That means you observe each and everything. Your perspective is wide open. You are not thinking about something else. You are all listening. You are all hearing. The other time when learning happens is when you get out of your comfort zone. Now to understand that, how many of us actually know that learning really happens when we get out of our comfort zone? Okay? How about if we do one little quick exercise to demonstrate that? So give me one way to fold your hands. Okay? I see. How about if I tell you, give me one different way other than this to fold your hand? Which one is more comfortable? The earlier one? Why? Because you are used to it. That means when you switch to a different way, that means you learn one new way to fold your hand. That means when you get out of your comfort zone, you force your brain to learn new technique. You force your brain to adapt to new way of doing things. Everybody with me? Okay. Now from here, now this is a very interesting concept, and I was actually fighting with Matthias. Sorry, Matthias. What are the 3 things happen when you walked into this room? What was your first observation? What was the first slide you saw?
Posters.
Posters. What was the first slide on the screen?
All the REI.
Yeah, without REI.
Yeah, all the
There was a quick start activity too. What happened with that quick start activity? Anybody?
Force you to talk to people.
So number 1. So quick start activity was basically to know each other, to talk to each other, to understand the topic, and what you already know about the topic, you share with each other. Now we know human beings are social learners. That means we learn more rather than reading or writing, we're talking to each other. That's why from the childhood, we are a child, and when our parents tell us something, we try to grasp it. Why? Because we are the social learners. Hence, that quick start was there to teach you guys that traditional learnings or traditional presentation starts with introduction and title slide. This is a title slide. We did not start with this. We started with a quick start activity to give you an opportunity to talk to each other, to connect to each other, and to connect to the topic. Hence, if you are the coach, if you are a trainer, if you are anybody who teaches in a room to others, try to start with a quick start activity, not with the title slide. That gives an opportunity for learners to come interact with each other, talk to each other, to know about the topic more. And also, as a presenter, it does not matter what I think. It does not matter who I am. What matters is what learners think. Because learners come, show up, they're investing their time and talking to each other, so learners are more important than the presenters. So give opportunity for learners to interact with each other, to talk to each other. The suggestion here is do not get rid of title slide, do not get rid of introductions, but put it after 2 minutes of quick start activity. That was the learning which we tried to introduce with that. So Matthias, over to you.
So here, I'm going to interrupt everything now, so you'll remember this. So we have these meetups. I see some familiar faces, but some new faces. We have these meetups once a month, and REI System sponsors them to kind of enhance the community around Agile practices and professional Agile community. And we have these meetups once a month on the third Tuesday of each month. So we try to vary the topics. We always have someone interesting come in and lead a session. And today we have Avinash Tripathi. He's a certified TBR trainer. TBR trainer, and he's a certified trainer by heart. Well, no, a certified trainer by profession, facilitator at heart, and a coach by instinct. And yes, and he has worked with several Fortune 100 companies in helping them get through the change curve, helping them understand what it means to be agile and what agility is all about. And he's here today, and I think I talked to him a while back, and we were talking about new ways of having presentations and experiences where people actually have takeaways that are more valuable than if there was someone just lecturing the entire time and going through PowerPoint slides. And so that's what he's here to demonstrate to you guys today. So thank you, and give him a hand.
I will really have to give you that you actually learned the way I put it. Sure.
Hey, what's a TBR trainer?
Thank you. I was about to explain that. TBR is training from back of the room. It's the concept which is introduced by Sharon Bowman. These are the different concepts which is basically given to you in 2 days training, which tells us as a coach or as a trainer or whomsoever wants to attend, how you can present your presentation or your material in a different way, and how you can make that training stick to learners' mind rather than, as soon as you step out of a conference room or a training room, done, I don't remember anything. So those are the concepts which she teaches. So as Matthias said, I'm the TBR certified trainer. I go out there in companies, talk to them, introduce these different concepts. So out of that training, we will be learning one concept which is 6 drums. Now, when you hear drums, it's away from politics. That's not related to politics at all. These are 6 drums. So many of you have heard about or played cards. So there is one card which trumps another card. So basically are these. There's some handouts on your table if you want to look quickly. Also we have on the wall if you want to just look around. Okay, that's interesting. Now on your table we should have few materials. You should have one puzzle which is horse rider puzzle. You should have a handout for the learning trumps. And you should have a few envelopes in the center. Okay. Now, we all have this. Agree? Okay.
Most of us. I don't have that one though.
And we will be using it to learn about it. what we call it recursive learning. This is a brain principle which is called recursive learning. You are using a thing to learn about a thing. That means you are learning about brain. You're using your brain to learn about your brain. So we will be going through some concepts. You see on one screen which is number line. How about we spend some time understanding how our brain works and how we learn? How about if you spend 2 minutes and try to add these numbers and give me the sum? Now if you are done, don't shout the number. If you are done, give the number to your table and tell them how you approached summing these numbers.
Did you do yesterday?
I didn't wait 10, I should go like
1 and 2 together, 3 and 4 together.
Yeah,
that's all right.
Since it's playing 9,
Like it's just a game
and that worked for you? Yeah, he's a completely different way.
Are you sure?
I went 10, and then I went from that one number in on the side, so I said 10, I heard 9 and 1 is 10, 8 and 2 is 10, and 7 and 3 is 10.
Yeah, I did it. One thought I didn't like that.
I just crunched it.
Did you get it?
I got it. So I just crunched it.
Oh, sure.
So 2 is 3, 3 plus 3 is 6, plus 4 is 10.
I just added them up. But the only way you can do it is you take 1 plus 10, it's 11, divide the difference between the average number is 5. Right, yeah.
So it's formula already in your head.
That's very cool. Yeah.
Wait, you lost me.
Okay, I see people are done. They're done discussing. Okay, so this is called number line metaphor, and this is typically used to tell people that there is no one particular way to do one particular thing. There are different ways to do one thing. Some of the things, some of ways will be very much easier for you to understand. It will be very easier for you to grasp the concept. Some of them will not be. There is no one right way to learn. There is no one right way to teach. It all depends how you grasp that concept. Now, understanding that, how many of you started summing this number from left to right? Okay. Now you can raise hand multiple times if you did it multiple times, in multiple ways. How many of you started summing these numbers from right to left? Okay. How many of you grouped these numbers in some fashion? What was that fashion?
By tens. By tens.
By 10. Okay.
I grouped them, I looked at 1, 2, 3, looked at 7, 8, 9, grouped them together, that's 30. 6
Okay.
and 4 together, and then 10 and 5, 15.
Okay. How many of us group by 10? As he mentioned, we group by 10. Okay. How many of us group by 11? All right. Now here's a very interesting topic. Grouping by 11 is the right solution for this problem.
Yeah, interesting.
Now, nobody did it. Why? Because it's a little difficult. It's a little tricky. What? If you see 10 and 1, 11, 9 and 2, 11, 8 and 3, 11, 7 and 4, 11, 6 and 5, 11, 11, 5, 55.
Yeah, interesting.
That is easy, but we did not approach it. Why? Because our brain is hardwired to approach one particular solution in one way, because we have started doing that from our childhood.
Yeah.
So there is no right way or wrong way to do things. It's just what your brain tells you. And that's why
But you
it's
said there
difficult.
was a right way to do it.
Yeah.
And I was going to dispute that, because you said that that one particular way was the right
Well,
way.
it's a right way because I said it.
Uh-huh.
It's a right way.
For you.
Sure, it's a right way because my head gives me more information for it. That's why it's a right way. And if you go to mathematicians, they will tell you the same thing. And that's how we teach kids, right? But again, when we are learning this from such childhood, we do not approach it. Why? Because our journey when we become adult, those hardwired connections changed. Okay. Now, as we know, our human body is made of neurons. Agreeing with me? Our nervous system is connected. Now, when I say our brain is hardwired, when we were born, we had only few neurons and we had only few connections between neurons. As we grew up, the number of neurons multiplied so many times, 100 times, 1,000 times. And more we use that connection, more that connection got stronger. More we use it, more we made that path for neurons and send information correctly. Now, let's quickly do one exercise with that to understand how neuron works, how our mind retrieves information, how we actually approach a solution, and what is right solution, what is wrong solution, how our brain decides. So, with me, raise your hand and say synapse. Synapse. Raise your left hand and say dendrite. In between those two hands, you have cell body.
Okay.
Say cell body.
Cell body.
Okay. Now, synapse, dendrite, and then cell body. As you see in here, these are the little synapse. This is synapse. Then you have dendrite. I will use this. It's easier. You see, this is dendrite. Then you have, this is synapse, and this is cell body. Now, dendrites are connected to different neurons. As we know, we have so many neurons. Neurons are connected to other neurons using dendrite, and synapses are connected to different sensory organs: eyes, nose, head, skin, so many sensory organs. Now, neurons grabs the information, gets the information from sensory organs, and then transmit it from one place to another. To understand that, raise your right hand, that is a synapse.
Synapse.
Raise your left hand, which is your dendrite,
Dendrite.
and try to reach out to another arm and try to grab a dendrite with a synapse. Other arm, not yours, somebody else's.
There you go.
Grab a person's dendrite with the other side.
With your synapse, find another dendrite and shake it. Okay, perfect. Now, well, we are not done. We are not done yet. We are not done yet. We are not done yet. So this is the bond. As you see, your synapse is connected to a dendrite. That means two neurons. Cell body's neurons are connected to each other. Now, one of you squeeze the hand, and as soon as the other one feels that squeeze, say zap.
Zap.
Squeeze it and say zap. Squeeze it, say zap. Now, the person who is saying zap, that means he or she is getting the squeeze or feeling the squeeze. Right? Alright, do this one more time.
Zap.
Alright. Exactly.
You say zap when I squeeze, and then I say zap
Exactly
when
this way your neurons behave. Exactly this way. So when you touch some part of your skin, your neurons get the zap and it sends the information to your brain. And your brain says, okay, I got the zap. I got the zap in my leg. I got the zap in my head. So that's how your neurons transmit the information from one part of your body to different part of your body. Now, these bonds between neurons are not made right away. When we were born, we had different activities, we learned from each other, we learned from social interaction. We kept on using that bond, and that bond became so strong. We born with only few bond. When we became adult, we are using one bond out of another bond. We lost so many bonds, and we have only few bonds which we are using together all the time. That's why our learning approach changes. We have only one learning approach, the way we approach for a solution. Any questions on this? Okay. All right. Now, try this slide again. Do I have anything? Do you have any question?
No.
Okay. Get your bingo sheet ready. So you have papers, or in your table you will have some papers. You have to create two bingo sheets. It's right in here. If you see one bingo sheet with 4 quadrants and one bingo sheet with 6 quadrants. Each person.
Oh, it's a mix.
Anyone need more paper?
I made a 6.
You guys have enough paper?
Right. I guess 4 on one side and 6 on the Still trying to count 1 to 10 in binary. How would I do for one? Apparently I don't count in binary.
They were saying, so you wrote their bingo sheet,
supposed to do that.
He
was just saying how to count, how many different ways to count.
Like you really drew quadrants.
Oh, well, these are called bingo sheets because you have, you can make many quadrants with. You can do that. There is nothing wrong in that, but I don't think.
I'm getting the cow thing wrong.
That's good to me. As long as that is helping you learning the concept, sure, you can use it.
4 quadrants and one with 6 quadrants.
So there's going to be more.
Okay. Now on the screen, you see this is the first learning principle we have in what I call it as a learning manifesto, and Sharon Bowman uses as a 6 trumps in learning. As you can see, this is in here number 1, which is movement trumps sitting. Brain research have found multiple times in multiple occasions that more you move, as you see, I'm moving in here and there. As you move, you get more oxygen in your brain. You get more activity in your brain, and more help you get to retrieve the information. Anything I can? Cool. Now, the brain, when I say research, there's a book which is a very famous book, Brain Rules, and John Medina is a molecular scientist. He says exercise boosts brain power. We think better when we insert movement into our day-to-day activity. We come to work, we sit long hours on the chair. We go home, we sit on the couch. So our day-to-day activity does not have day-to-day activities does not give more boost into our brain. Now, he says, John Medina, we think better when we insert movement into our daily activities, including those places where we sit a lot. That's why when our organization companies started looking on the research, they have standing desks now. They have movement in their desks. You can start sitting on your medicine balls. So they have removed chairs. Now they have multiple other activities which you can include in your day-to-day activities. Same brain principles, same brain activities. If you are a coach, if you are a trainer, include in your training activities. That way, people will retrieve and get the information, take that information with them to your home, to their home, and use it whenever they want to. Now, there is no, as there is a saying that for an adult to teach one thing, you have to teach the same thing in 6 different ways. Now, use this activity, use this principle, movement in your training, and teach that one concept in 6 different ways. Make sure that that connection which we just saw, that zapping thing, is used 6 times, and then that bond has become stronger and stronger every time you use it. And when they go home, it's very easy for them to retrieve that information. Second principle, writing trumps reading. Now, I give you bingo sheets. Oops. Okay. Oxygen. I already gave you. Well, I think I already gave you oxygen. But anyways, the second principle is writing trumps reading. I gave you bingo sheets. That means whatever principle I'm giving you, when you go out of this room, you should be able to retrieve all the information which you are saying. Number 1 is written on the board. Number 2, I'm talking to you. Number 3, you are talking to each other. We had one quick start activity, and you already talked to each other. That was a social interaction. Number 1. Number 2, I'm telling you. Number 3, you are looking here and there every time, and then you're writing in your bingo sheets. So on the bingo sheet, which has 6 different boxes, take the opportunity and write those 2 learning principles: movement trumps sitting and talking trumps or writing trumps reading.
Which one do we write it?
Are we writing this on the 6th quadrant or the 4th quadrant?
6th one.
It doesn't matter in which corner we begin?
No, that's all right. Now, how many of us read novel?
Read novel? Sometimes.
Now, what happens in your brain when you read a novel?
It depends on which novels.
Right. So whenever you read, there's an interesting thought which was mentioned in one of the brain study, that when you are reading, your brain can wander. Your brain can start going from one places to another places. But when you're writing, you're just thinking about what you're writing. That's why there is one principle which says writing trumps reading, which is a tool to focus your thoughts, to focus your energy into what you are learning, what you are reading, and what you are writing. Now, Patricia Wolf is one of the researchers, and she's also an educator in a university, and she writes about this particular principle. She says writing and thinking are strongly linked. Writing serves as a tool for refining your thinking. So,
When you say writing, do you include typing? Or are you talking about the good old-fashioned pencil and paper, truly writing?
anything will work, as long as you're focusing your energy to write the words.
So typing would count.
Typing will count too.
I got to say though, I think there's I've heard some studies that say there's a fundamental difference between the two, and I have a Surface. I specifically come and take notes with a pen, and I feel like I do retain a lot more. I don't have to think about what I'm writing when I'm writing, but I do have to think. I do think when I'm typing. I don't know if that might be different for other people, but there is a difference between the two.
Sure, there is definitely difference between the two. Now again, when we go back to brain research, when we go back to our concepts, for you it might be hardwired in a different way, for others it might be hardwired in a different way.
I'm old. Maybe back in the old days I didn't have anything I could type on yet. They hadn't invented typewriters yet, so I was writing, wouldn't maybe something like that.
Right, sure. And I will share, now as you started that topic, I will share one more thing. It's a saying in the market and in everywhere that women's brain is hardwired differently than men's. Women can do multitasking, men's cannot. Is that true?
That's not
Is
true.
that not true?
Yes, we know that it's an
Yes.
excuse.
To break the thesis or to break the pre-notion about it, there is no research to prove it. It's just we think that it is. And we have seen it with examples. My wife, she can type and she can listen to me and she can answer the question. Me, let me type, then I will answer. So it's the way what we see, we observe things and we react to it. We understand that way. But to answer that, there is no research to prove it.
I believe it's a skill.
All right, maybe we can talk later.
Oh, just the habits.
All right. Now is the fun time. Now we will be using our bingo sheet, which is with 4 quadrants. We will be using the envelopes on the center. Now, here are some ground rules for this activity. This activity is a little long activity, so make sure you are playing along. This is a really interesting concept which I built up, and this is the first time I'm trying to test this, and let's see how that works out. You will have, as you know, you have 2 pages in front of you. You have 2 bingo sheets. One is with 4 quadrants and one is with 6 quadrants. Use the one with 4 quadrants. Each table will have few envelopes. Each envelope will contain some characters or some letters inside it. Each envelope will get those letters will form one meaningful word. With me, let's do check for understanding. I see some question mark on the faces. Let's do a check for understanding. How many envelopes you have? 5. Some will have more, some will have less. What each envelope will contain? Words.
Letters or words?
It's a letters, but each letter in an envelope will form to a word. So it's like a scramble. We're playing scrambles with those envelopes. So each envelope will contain some words, and those words will form a meaningful or rightful word. So spend a few minutes and we'll see how that goes. Once we are all done, we'll try to reconvene from where we left off. As a group.
We're supposed to figure the word or repeat it out?
Okay, so
R.
is it okay? Could we move this in here?
Sure. That was funny. What is that? You didn't get that number thing?
Sorry, friends.
No, sorry, man. You're amazing. You're amazing.
Yeah, but that number is very
Francis, we need to arrange it and photograph it.
Yours is more interesting. Is that?
I think Steve is pretty good at visual representation. If you did this little puzzle,
If we have Trump
I gotta say,
road, it sounds like
Yeah,
it's just going
I
down
know.
some Republican.
That's right.
Probably from the
That was a nice, that was nice saying you're weird. That's basically what it does. That's what it was saying.
So
I have a question.
What did that do?
So, okay, and
I think we had to figure out the letter.
No, one word.
David, let's go look at your, or you want to do one next?
Yeah.
I got no idea.
Yeah. Do you want to do yours next? Did you figure it out?
Okay, next one. Okay, here we go.
following.
I think they're all, yeah, they have to be.
What is it?
Following.
Following. Oh, great, you figured it out real quick.
Good try.
How about you?
You have so many words. Or you have few other words. Okay, so you got this.
I was right behind you. I was going to be like 3 seconds.
How do you spell that?
That's it.
I was like, D.
So this is a table 2. That means 1, 2.
Oh, right, yeah. We'll do that. That sounds good.
It's a lot of
Is that one step we watched on the floor? White House.
We're going 4 for you.
Is this one?
This one's done, no, we're just keeping them in.
I got it. No, I can have it back.
Yeah, this one we can do it. All right, so we got C, U, S, T. You're probably good. Yep, you're right.
Okay.
Okay. One, two,
Now
three.
your
Okay, you
envelope,
guys
there
next.
is numbers is 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4,
Yeah.
and that means this towards this first one.
Uh-huh.
And this is 4.2, that means they are 4 in your English sheet.
I was just praying that it came out and really good.
Okay, next.
So here's that envelope.
Okay, how many words you got?
Three.
All right.
Okay, so how many we got, by the way? Just one we got. Do you, okay, you mix these
That really was a big one.
Sure, that's all right.
Maybe they do form a sentence.
That's good.
I said road. Hold on, I think I have this.
K.
I think what you guys did, you opened all the envelopes together, right?
Now we're supposed to, we're supposed to work on. Supposed to work on one at a time, right? Is it two groups?
Is it supposed to work one at a time together?
Oh, we've
That's
been
what we're
doing
doing.
that.
That is what we're doing. Except somebody was too quick.
Someone was so quick, he got it right.
How many words you got?
I'm wondering with the 2 T's, which I needed to get it.
Yeah, we have 2 envelopes that have 2, 3. 4.
Wait, you're supposed to what? That's supposed to be 4 letters?
Is that right?
All right.
That's good.
Nicely done.
So I did H
We should go for a competition.
Did you write them all down?
like, do I have every letter? Yes. Oh, you know, that is a word, but
It's a we create a sentence just for
Right now, what you're doing is, these are the separate words.
Yes, 2, 2. Oh, yes, 2. Oh, this is 2, 2 neighbors on this one. This, no, can't have spaces, so it's not more.
Negotiation, let's
So this interaction here.
You want to look at this one for a change, or? And you know, this could be a W or a M.
Which one was yours?
In the same quadrant.
Which one?
Third one. We wrote it here.
Okay, so if it says 1.1, that means I will go to first quadrant. If it says 1.4, that will go to fourth quadrant. If it says 1.1, that will go to fourth quadrant.
So cotton, you know, there's cotton in this, right?
So wait, so what was
Oh.
Yeah, I saw carton in it, and we just,
no, not necessarily. He just wants us to organize it into the quadrants.
it's a trap. Cart.
Okay, so 1.1 was and 1.4 is customer. Yeah. So what's the other one?
If you have multiple, that means you will have multiple words in the same
A
order.
little leftover for cartons.
That's another 1.1. Okay.
Contract. You got it. Nicely done, you got it. No, that's it, contract.
Yeah.
Nicely done. You got it, nicely done.
Third quarter is A. What's yours?
Done.
Is there a common?
So where does the H go with you? You go S.
it would be good. It's almost like that, right? Sure.
Comment?
D is not a super common number.
You know, and typically, I'm not seeing testing go this way, right? Like the,
No,
sometimes.
there's no spaces. He says there's no, there is one word, you can't do what it.
Shrimp is there. I should shrimp.
Yeah, by accident.
Fit as 8, but foremost parts.
Foremost, yes. But that was a good one, yeah.
There are so many E's, I don't know if there are two E's that might even go together, you know?
Well, I saw his. I checked it.
There's no.
How many quadrants you got by
3.
He's still working on the second one.
Then probably.
Observe. Something like the A, B, and D.
Yeah, comprehensive, yeah.
I probably saw someone
Oh, strong.
You did it.
That's really
Oh, but then there is comprehensive and comprehend. Got it. That's right.
Oh my god.
I was waiting for it. There you go. High five.
Make it work, and it doesn't work, right? So what you did is very clever.
Okay, let's see where we are. Table number 1, they are done with all their quadrants. They have 4 words in, or
5 words.
5 words in those quadrants. Table number 2 is done. How about table number 3? Did we get all the quadrants?
Steve does seem pretty happy.
Comprehensive,
Every time I see him, he's got a smile on his face and a story to tell. It's fantastic.
Okay, so that's contract.
Comprehensive.
like many to see in person.
Okay.
Or row.
Now, I think if you have mixed up these
Well, seriously.
envelopes, but I can help. So if this is 3.3, that means we'll go to your bingo sheet in third quadrant. That means it will 1, 2, 3. This word will go into this quadrant. If you have 3.2, that means we go to 1, 2, second quadrant.
I have 3.3.
So that will go to third quadrant.
Which did he have?
You can have 2 words in the same quadrant.
I know.
Did you get it?
Tell me you
And we write each other's ones too?
Yeah, I see what you were thinking.
So which one is? 1, 2, 3. I think he said 1, 2, 3. Are you guys 3? Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And you're 3, 4, right?
I don't want to get one for you. Take 2 more minutes.
Comprehensive.
Take 2 more minutes, otherwise we'll get started with other activities.
Where does following go?
So you got an engineer.
Following is 3.
It's also 3.
And over is also 3, yes?
Over, and which one was 3? Comprehensive?
Which individuals and interactions over processes and
Yeah. Yeah.
Where does following go? 3. I'm sorry, is that the SOAR?
Okay.
4 goes in
4 goes in 4. Ha.
F-O-R-E goes in 4.
So number 1?
How about if I
No,
can
number
get,
1.
how many words are there?
Following and over.
Which
Yep.
quadrant is it?
Okay, cool.
Okay, done. So
Four's right.
I think this is kind of similar to.
Most important thing is
This is like, okay, but we don't really ever bring it to life.
No, I mean, it makes sense.
I don't know, but we were supposed to pick these up in order.
Words and other things.
Are we supposed to do the other one?
Who knows? He didn't, you know, I just perhaps that's the.
Should we be doing all of them? Just keep going if we have 4 people?
So we just don't think about it. Because that we don't.
Say that one more time.
Should we go through, so we just went through 1 each. If we have an additional envelope, should we keep going? Should we do all of them?
Oh, you have, right.
Okay.
All right.
Keep going.
But anyway,
Same word.
you will.
Same word, over?
Let's do this. You will get enough opportunity to work on your envelopes. Moving along, let's get started.
3.1 over.
We will keep
Unless you want to make it row.
we will come back to this activity one more time. Now,
Row?
I have one interesting observation which I saw in Matthias. Matthias, share with us what happened when you figured out what that word was.
When I figured out what the word was, like
What were the emotions? What came in you when you figured out, oh, what that word is? Okay.
I was really impressed that she came up with this one word that was very close to it, and all we had to do was flip a letter around and it gave us the word.
Right. So brain in particular is very sensitive about all these small chunks of information. And now when we see a number line metaphor, when you started doing it, your brain started dividing that particular metaphor, number line, into small chunks so that you can start perceiving that information, use that information, and come up with something meaningful. That's why when we started adding from 1 to 5 or from left to right, we started adding one by one. Some of us started from right to left. Some of us grouped in some numbers. In here, if you see, your brain is actually very much interested in solving puzzles. Now when you solve a puzzle, there is an endorphin which releases in your brain and you say, that's what it was. So that's your brain's feedback mechanism. That's your brain's aha moment which says, okay, this is what it was. So you don't need any motivation. Your brain automatically figures out the junk information. Now if you see, there is a puzzle also on your desk which is a horse rider puzzle. I'm not sure how many of you have puzzles around it. But that is a puzzle which is very interesting puzzle that was created back in 70s. The aha moment for that puzzle is really awesome, and I really don't want to kill the fun for you guys. Take those 3 pieces with you, spend time with it. If you're not able to figure it out in 5 minutes, that's okay, leave it aside. Your brain will keep on thinking about that puzzle subconsciously. Once you come back after 15 minutes, 10 minutes, your brain might solve it automatically for you, or you will keep on working on it for 10-15 minutes and your brain will automatically solve it. And at that time, that aha moment, your brain will get some endorphin in it, and then you will say, ooh, now I'm really feeling good. I'm so pumped up in solving puzzles. Few of us have already solved it. Table number 1, they are perfectly professional in solving that problem now. Okay. Now if you have solved all your envelopes, that's perfect. Can anybody tell me what you observe after understanding those words, after reading those words, what it could be? Some of us, I'm pretty sure that you will figure out what that is. Does that look familiar to you?
Looks like the Agile principle.
Okay, that's an interesting thought. How about this? Okay, so keep on working on it. Your brain will still think about that activity, same as horse rider puzzle. When we come back to this activity again, then you will see that your brain will quickly grasp that information again. Because we are leaving it aside, we'll come back and we'll try to get this done again.
Where did you get to ride?
The third principle which we will talk about, which is talking trumps listening. Now, when we started the quick start activity, that was the first where we used this principle. When we listen to anybody, when we listen to our parents, when we listen to a trainer, when we listen to a teacher, when we listen to a coach, that means we are listening that information only one time. But when we talk about that information, when we give that information, we actually think about that twice. Number 1, when we are thinking what we have to say. Number 2, when we are actually saying it. That means that connection between our neurons, when we're trying to retrieve that information, is already getting stronger. Once, when we're listening it. Twice, when we are thinking about it, what we have to say. Thrice, when we're actually delivering that. That's why this particular principle is important when you are lecturing somebody, when you are giving your thoughts to somebody, when you're training adults, use this and they will be able to retain the information much longer.
I've heard it said when you meet somebody and they tell you your name, you listen to it and then do what you can in the next 2 sentences to use their name 3 times.
Mm-hmm. That's why you're telling your brain to use that connection multiple times. So your brain actually hangs on to information if you have connection. So on that thought, let's do one quick exercise, which is close your eyes and think about what I'm about to say. And that is, think about ocean waves. Close your eyes, think about ocean waves. Okay? Now, how many of us saw actually ocean waves? How many of us saw words, ocean waves? There you go. So we have one person. Her brain is hardwired differently. Her learning techniques are different. But for others, we perceive information, we make that connection to something which is very much useful for us so that we can retrieve the information. Same thing happens when somebody tells us the name and we are telling that name again, we are using that name again, we are making that connection in our head with that particular name so that we can retrieve that information again. Now, for this principle, Jay Cross, he's a technology expert and he has written one book which is Informal Learning, and he says we humans exist in networks. Learning is social, we learn from, by and with other people. So we use this principle in our quick start activity where we talk to each other, we make connection with each other, we also made connection with the topic. You already knew how human beings learn. On top of it, you also started talking about how human beings learn from others. Then we also learning these principles. So we are social learners. We learn from each other, and when we talk more about it, we strengthen that bond with that particular information. This is the fifth principle. Shorter trumps longer. Now, who can tell me why this is a learning principle? What you guys think? And this is a very interesting topic. USA in particular figured out this back in 70s. And I will tell you the industry where this was used. But before I do that, how about if you spend some time and think about why shorter trumps longer?
I've learned it from personal experience.
Sure.
So I naturally have a tendency to basically write books for emails. And people don't like to read them because they're books. So when I shorten or compress it, people will actually read it and then they'll respond, right? So the same principle will also apply to learning as well. If you just have way too much information, people just aren't going to get it. The shorter and more concise you can get it, the more likely they are to retain it.
How you will feel if I say that you have to go to and attend a training which is 8 hours long and you have to sit in that training? What will be your initial reaction?
I hope it's a good topic.
Well, so as human beings, we always prefer shorter than longer. Now, this was done in USA, this breakthrough was done in USA in advertising industry, in television industry. All the television programs, if you see, they are divided into 15 or 20-minute chunks. That means they, rather than having 1 hour long session, they already chunked it into 15-minute sessions. As a human brain can understand information and grasp information maximum 10 minutes. After that, your brain will start wandering about here and there. Your brain will start thinking about something else. For what happens in the next 5 minutes, after 10 minutes, is very important. And that study was done by researchers, and then advertising agencies started using that research. That's why whenever you're watching an hour-long program or half an hour-long program, you will see that 10 minutes is for that program. After 10 minutes, 5 minutes is basically for commercials. Once commercial is over, then you come back to the program, and then for 5 minutes you have commercial again. So that's why it says shorter trumps longer, and advertising agencies started using it. After 10 minutes, your brain will be like, okay, I'm looking at the same information again and again. I need some change. There is a change. You get the commercials.
But now we can binge watch and just go straight through and without breaks. So I can sit there for 45 minutes if it's a good binge watch. But not at the class.
And that's how all these televisions and all these media changing our brain. We are hardwired actually with shorter, but now when we binge watch, when we keep on looking the same information, we are changing our brain. As we know, we have been evolved so long in our journey so far. Our brain is a very, very evolutionary organ, and that can understand and react for information very quickly. Now, as we know that we need only 21 days to grasp any new habit. If you're doing that binge watching for 21 days, your brain will automatically hardwire to do that.
But look at social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. If you see someone do a Facebook post that has like multiple paragraphs, I don't read it. I just go on to the next one. Everything is sound bites.
Now, this is what John Medina in his book Brain Rules says. Now, he asked one particular question, which is, what happens at 10 minutes mark to cause such trouble? Anybody?
Something that happens in your brain.
Right. So the way he explained in his book, and I would recommend reading this book. This book gives you the recent brain research, and it tries to solve all the problems which we are facing regarding learning, how adults can learn, how adults can teach. The way he explains this is all about how brain nurture the information and how brain perceive the information. It's all about nature and nurture. When we say nature, that means our brain is hardwired. Our brain is basically made to perceive the information in chunks. And when we say nurture, that means our social interactions are nurturing us to perceive that information. As she mentioned, let me see her name, Monica. As she mentioned, that we are hardwiring our head by binge watching. That is a nurture. As we teach our brain to do certain things, so for longer period of time, that means we are nurturing our brain to do that activity again and again. When we go to social media, if we are doing that for longer hours, longer time, that means our brain will get addicted to it. So it's a nature versus nurture. Our brain is basically survives on nature and nurture. Now, as a learner, or as a coach, or as a trainer, how we can utilize this particular principle? Engage listeners every 10 minutes. They need to do anything. They need to talk, they need to move, they need to stretch, sit, relax, talk to each other. Breathe. More we breathe, more oxygen goes into our head. Movement trumps the day. That means after 10 minutes, now again, as is written, it's not really a rule, it's sort of a guideline. So you can have your actors or your learners actively engage with you in any of the presentation for 10 minutes. Now after that, you can have activities, you can have them do something. You can have that 10-minute session into 15-minute session. You can have that 15-minute session to 20-minute session. But after 20 minutes, that becomes a law of diminishing values. That means they will have very rare chance of retrieving that information, to perceive that information.
There was that book, Thinking Fast and Slow, that covers this. And when you're talking about it as a rule, they did a survey of judges. So you think of a judge as a person who spends a lot of time having to focus on a topic, right? So they did this on, and it evens out this way, on the court, what's the term where you come back and you ask for clemency for good behavior for prisoners. And this was they were checking parolees, I'm sorry, thank you. And much more average than maybe typical cases, right, in terms of duration and whether they would be accepted or not for good behavior. And what they found was, consistently across all of the judges they checked in this survey, you had a better chance of being paroled if you were the first person in the morning, the first person after lunch, or the first person after a break. Because you fell into the 20 minutes of attention where they're paying attention. The rest of them are like, no. Their brains checked out already. So.
And thanks for sharing that. That's a really nice example.
So you're saying we overcome this by every 10 minutes you completely change things up and kind of interrupt? You do some kind of interaction to change the dynamics, basically, right? So that then they start like thinking anew.
So, as I said, this is not generally a rule. It's a guideline, right? So you can have 10 minute chunks, or you can have 15 minutes or 20 minutes. Now, sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean, as an example, like you started just engaging people, and then after 10 minutes, you asked me to do it in your introduction. So that kind of changed things up.
Right. So that was one of the activity which was done by Sharon, and she shared that information with us. And the reason we started doing that in presentation, because number one, we want to have that quick start activity. We want our learners to engage with the topic. Why they are coming in here? They're spending time. They're spending their resources coming into the class. They're spending their energy. So we want them to have a positive experience. That means we are using their knowledge, we are using that knowledge to connect to someone else's knowledge, blend it together, and then also we are taking that opportunity to connect to each other. We are giving them a social environment to learn. Now, imagine if you step into a training session and you don't know anybody. That means there will be no social environment. We are human beings, we learn from interactions. We learn in an environment which is safe for us. So with that quick start activity, we created a social environment. We created connection with the topic. We created a connection between the learners. So we achieved the three things. Now, that was for too long. That was for 10 minutes. Then we changed the environment. We changed the environment so that our brain can go back to conscious mind, subconscious mind, and start perceiving that information would happen. Start absorbing that information. After the introduction, we came back to our topic. Now, if I give you this session, the way it's going, we started with quick start activity, then we had introduction, then we looked on two principles, then we had one activity. Now we're looking at again two principles, then we will go back to our activity. So this is what's happening in here. We are perceiving information in chunks. Now our brain, as we said, our brain is very much made to perceive information in chunks. So we are using that principle to understand how it works. Earlier in the slide, as I said, we have one brain. We are using our brain to understand our brain. That's what's happening in this session today. Okay. Any question on this? And that was, thanks Matthias for bringing it up. All right, time again to go back to our activity. Now, as she already mentioned, I think she figured out what that is. If you have all the words done in your quadrant, in your bingo sheet, you have opened all your envelopes, that means it's time to leave your table, interact with other tables, and exchange some words which make sense to you. Now, table number 1 will only focus on quadrant number 1. Table number 2 will only focus on quadrant number 2. Table number 3 will only focus on quadrant number 3. Table number 4 will focus on quadrant number 4. When I say focus, that means you should have a meaningful sentence in that quadrant. You don't have to worry about all other quadrants. All you have to focus on one particular quadrant, which is for your table.
That's the.
Make a sentence.
Hence, it might be responding.
Now, if you haven't made all the words from your envelope, that means you're making it hard for other tables to figure out what it is.
Is there a word?
Ours was over following.
Yeah, I give up.
I'm pretty sure that's actually.
Okay. See, your brain is already exercising. Perfect.
Somebody had interaction, just to make sure.
Okay, I didn't know that was possible, that you could do that.
I already wrote that.
Yeah.
Too much.
Matthias, oh,
Sorry.
Matthias, did you do your work? All day of interaction.
Okay. Give us something.
You already
So that's what we were looking for.
We got our.
Your brain is thinking hard.
Well, we have to know. Yeah.
How are you?
So we already finished the sentence.
Oh, you already did?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you talk to others?
Talk to other for.
Okay.
What's your third one?
I think we got our.
You got it. That's what it
We
is.
had our, we had these mixed.
Okay. Yeah, see, they had an interactions.
What do you have?
So which one?
Number 3. We have.
You guys are looking for
We have responding changes over following the following.
Or you
Are you
want
responding over following?
Yeah, so you guys are over process.
So,
We have to figure this out, but this is
Yeah.
plan, negotiation, tools, and
Number 3, yeah, plan.
responding over following. So number 4, customer collaboration and negotiation.
See, I already know this stuff. I have to memorize.
Oh, you did it by accident?
Okay.
is it responding over or following?
Responding
Oh, not
following the plan. Responding, it's what we gathered from a couple of folks came by and they had the word plan and responding. And so,
Yeah, actually responding to change.
you had responding, right? Yeah. And so we had over and following.
Okay.
So I don't know what you mean. You're not quite this, right?
No, you're not.
I've almost got all of it. He's got the last piece.
I think we have our responding.
I got the rest of them.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, we got it. Yeah, we got all of the Agile Manifesto right now. What are you looking for?
Okay, yeah.
Number 1? 4? It's all 4 on the wall and Steve picked up on it. And so when people came by with the words, it was very easy to choose. Yeah. The first one is individual interaction over I guess, I think.
Individual
Interaction over
That's right, because it might change very well.
So it's an Agile Manifesto. Is that right? Yeah, Agile Manifesto. So what the exercise is go every table and collect the words, right? So we already figured out.
Individual over processes and tools.
Like go each table, what do you have? So now we already fast track.
Right, yeah.
Very fast track.
So that's the following the plan over.
I haven't rearranged it yet.
Expand change it.
You're on this project, no, I'm sorry.
So it's an Agile Manifesto.
Yes.
That's it. So we go each table to grab the words
I need to cover that.
and make a sentence. So
Okay,
we
right.
already made a sentence. So we already made an Agile Manifesto sentence. Alright, are we done? Alright, thank you. That's awesome. Can I ask
Well, you know
you
what?
for the
I think you solved it for us too.
So for the other groups too. I mean, they got Oh, sure. No, I figured I only did for our third quarter. Yeah. Which ones? I'm curious.
He did already. What is it?
Human attention span.
Customer collaboration and a contact decision. Yep.
Don't move.
Oh, working software or comprehensive documentation. Yeah. So it's Agile. That's interesting. I love it.
Do you have any?
I think,
All about.
Yes.
actually, I own a Surface Pro 3.
That's also the concept of the Pomodoro
Somebody
technique.
gave me a Surface Pro.
Growing up learning.
Staring at it.
Yeah, they got the new, I have a Surface Pro 3, there's a Surface Pro 4.
And then never even
So I guess here's the question, I guess. In theory, these horse
Pomodoros are 20 minutes, and then
Oh, there's probably another
short break you take 15.
facing left. This guy's facing
At
left.
least that's how I know. I could be wrong.
There was some reason I was thinking, I should think that they
interaction.
interact. The argument, let's say it's like
All right,
facing opposite directions.
we will give 1 more minute for team number 4 to finish things off, and
They're
then we
facing
will
opposite directions. Maybe these guys are facing opposite directions. I don't know, I'm trying to figure out what's the puzzle.
You guys need any info?
That's good.
One more here.
Makes sense.
One is,
Where would you get cooperation?
That was our word.
When you put, see, when you put these next to each other, they're facing the same
Wherever you want. I don't mind sharing.
Look at these two facing opposite directions.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Fold.
We need that because we're number 4.
Fold,
No.
so.
We need to-
Not technical.
Yes.
I think it is one way.
Oh, yes, you're right. Yes, you're right.
What you say?
Short breaks of 5 minutes and then everything.
For example, I it's very easy for me to guess, yeah, but maybe because this is like, yeah, and I write down,
On your
so
fourth
when I
break.
go to my table, I have to write it down, yeah, and then I collect, yes, yes, and then so like a scan, if I don't find all the word, I cannot rewrite it. Sure, but now I already have 3 is responding to changes over time. Okay. Because everybody rated the manifesto is easy to guess, right? Yep. And now I can read the sentence.
Sorry? Man, yeah, I don't know if that would fix it.
Sure. So maybe you have to make sure that
Especially with how much
So let's see how many of us have figured out what that is.
Yes, sounds good. That's all I had to do.
Table number 1, you figured out, okay, what that
So
is?
you can get the sentence
Yeah.
because it's all there. So yeah.
All right, I got it. All right, individuals and interactions over process and tools.
Perfect. Table number 2,
Working software over comprehensive documentation.
okay. Table number 3,
Responding to changes over following the plan.
perfect. Now table number 4,
Customer collaborations over contact conditions.
okay. And if I say including all tables, what that is?
Agile Manifesto.
So together with social learning, with movement, with using our brain, we learned Agile Manifesto using some of the learning manifestos. So how was the experience? Did we get the aha moment
Yeah.
when we figured that out? Did we feed our brain little dolphins?
We got,
What?
Okay. Now, how many of us have actually played with that horse rider puzzle? Not table number 1, because I saw you guys solving it. But other than that,
What's the puzzle? What's the question?
okay.
The table, the horse.
So that puzzle, I see. So I wanted to see the reason I didn't explain the rules of that puzzle, because I wanted to see how your brain actually perceives when you see the connections, little chunk information. As I said, brain's normal function is to retrieve the information. If you get in chunks, put it in a meaningful way. Now, what happens when your brain starts seeing that information without knowing the rules? That means you already started working on it. You're already trying to figure out what that is, what puzzle that is, what it transforms into. So your brain already started looking into it. Now the rules are, you have 2 horses and you have 2 riders. You have to put those riders on top of the horses. Rule number 1, you cannot bend any of the paper.
Oh.
You cannot. That's rule number 1. You cannot fold it. Now when you say your puzzle is solved, that means the solution should compress, or I should be able to see 2 horses and 2 riders. No hidden part from anywhere.
That's the only rule, don't bend it.
So, rule number 1, don't bend it. And when you say you solved it, we should be able to see 2 horses and 2 riders all together. Now, rule number, I know where you're going. You cannot cut the paper either.
Too late.
I just put it together. It's like I never would have figured that out myself.
I have few more.
I didn't know. This is so clever. This is so
But can you hide it?
How I.
Oh, boy. Or the table that didn't get documented.
Okay, now in this session we will not get to the solution of this puzzle. The reason we will not get to the solution of this puzzle because solution is not important.
Yeah, it is.
What important is how your brain approaching this problem. That is more important. And you want your brain to perceive new information. You want to learn new techniques. You want to learn how your brain approaches a solution. So solution does not matter. What matters is how you're approaching to the solution. So we will keep on working on it. A day later, or 2 days later, or 3 days later, your brain will automatically solve it. Now again, if you're still not able to do it, ping me.
Do you really think we'll be able to sleep through the night?
Well, if you have that problem, then Google it. Okay.
Try not to Google.
So we will quickly look on our 2 principles. The next is different from same. Now, how many of us actually drives to work every day? Now, what happens when you start driving, you start pulling your car out of your driveway and you reach the parking lot?
Muscle memory.
Your brain is switched off. What are you thinking about? How many meetings I have? To whom I have to meet with? What I need to do? What are my to-do list? Do I have to pick up my kid from anywhere? Do I need to drop them to school? You're thinking about it, but still you're able to reach to work safely. How that happens? Okay, now to understand that, let's do a quick exercise. This is pinky brain. You know what pinky brain is? Pinky brain is RAS. Which is reticular activating system. So touch your pinky finger. I call it pinky brain. The reason I call it pinky brain because it's exactly this shape and it's same size. Pull this pinky finger and put your hand right where it connects to your neck. That's where your pinky brain is. Now this is basically a watchman. What happens when you say watchman? That means that helps your conscious brain to wake up or shut off. As human brain, it actually perceives for information where it can rest or it can start working. So pinky brain works as a watchman. Now when you start working or you start driving a car, if you know that this is my regular routine, your pinky brain will send information to your conscious brain saying, hey, you know what, I got it. You go think about something else. If you want to sleep, sleep, but I got it. That's where you start thinking about your to-do list. You start thinking about what meetings you have. All other information you keep on thinking, but still you're able to drive. Now this pinky brain will give you more information when something changes drastically. Suppose if you see red light, your pinky brain will send information to your brain, hey, wake up, there's a change. At that time you put your foot on the brake and you will brake your car. So that's how your brain perceives information, and that is the function of pinky brain. Now, if you see Eric Jensen, he is a very known novel writer, and here it is. Eric Jensen, he wrote, any stimuli introduced into our immediate environment, which is either new or sufficiently strong, emotional intensity or high contrast, will immediately gain our attention. Same example, when you're driving, when you see a contrast red light, your brain will quickly react to it and will put a brake. But if it's a regular routine work which you are doing, your pinky brain will send information to brain, hey, you know what? You go to sleep, you start thinking about something else. I got it. Now, there's one interesting example which I will share. When you start shopping for a car, let's suppose you want to look for a particular red car, maybe Toyota Corolla color red. What happens when you start driving on the road? You will start seeing Toyota Corolla red more often. Why? That's an interesting observation. Why that happens?
Because you'll start paying attention, right? Subconsciously.
Exactly. Your pinky brain, you give information to your pinky brain saying, hey, I'm actually looking for this. That means you're perceiving that information more. If you're not looking for anything, your brain will start filtering that information and start focusing on what you're trying to do. If you're driving a car, you're just driving a car and thinking about destination where you want to reach. And when you start thinking about looking for a car which is colored in red, you will start seeing red car on the road. If you're looking for a blue car, you will start seeing blue car. So that's how your brain perceives different information. And that's how your brain perceives the same information. And your brain actually wakes up when it is different. If it is same, it will go to sleep. So if you want your learners to be awake in your training, try to interact with them in different ways. Try to put in same information in different ways. Try to have activity in different ways. Same thing which we do. Now the next learning principle is very interesting. With our example, when we shut off our eyes and I said ocean waves, our head connects to images better than words. Cognitive neuroscience gave us the researches which says human brain can retrieve information from images faster than words. John Medina, in his Brain Rules book, he says vision trumps all other senses. We as human beings have trained ourselves to use vision as one particular sense, and we rely on vision much better than other senses. Same as dogs. Dogs rely on smell. We human beings rely on vision. Bats, they rely on sound. Same as bats, same as dogs. Not same as, but we rely on vision as more information, to gather more information from our vision. Now, if we go back to our activity, which we did, how about if I show you this picture? What do you see? What is this?
Two pictures.
Maybe it's not making sense right now. How about if I give you this? How about if I give you this? So now, if I give you these two images, you're able to perceive the information. Now when you close it, and when you go over on that, there you come. So now when you go out of this room, all you will remember, these two images, not these two words. But you will be able to retrieve these words using these images. Same for others. What you can think of after seeing this?
PHP. Sorry.
How about this?
Documentation. Working software.
Working software. Over comprehensive documentation. How about this? Or maybe, you know what, wait for it. There it comes. How about this? Maybe it's not making sense right now. How about see, there is the aha moment right there when you figure out what that is. How about, this is the last one, how about
Contracting business.
I see some happy faces, I see some puzzled faces. So let's get to that. So let me see, when I say puzzled faces, what are the questions?
What does Santa have to do with it?
Oh, well, that's just a picture. That's just a picture. Right? You have all the software engineers, you have a customer. So it's a customer collaboration. And then you have in here down, which is contract negotiation. So it's just a way to picture what that is. So again, if we go back, images trumps words. If you want to have your learners retrieve information frequently, if you want to give them a new concept, try using images rather than words. Because images stick to mind more frequently than words. Same as ocean waves. When I say ocean waves, you started thinking about ocean and waves, not ocean waves written. So that's how your human brain perceives information. What do you think about this? How many of us actually were able to figure out this is responding to change?
After a while.
That was a stretch.
The point is, it doesn't actually matter if you figure it out or not. It's the cognitive snap, even if it's given to you after you spend time thinking about it. That's the
right.
It's better if you think of it yourself, but the pause has the benefit anyway.
Thanks for sharing that thought. With the same thought, when I gave you those puzzles, the rider and the horse rider puzzle, it's always good to start doing something. That means you're connecting to the puzzle, you're connecting to the topic, and your brain already started figuring out what that is. Now when you're given a perception, you already have a connection with the topic. With that connection, you're putting a perception on top of it. That means you're trying to understand that one more time. That means your understanding will be much more clearer than when somebody gives you a perception. So if I give you a perception, my own perception to understand something, you will understand from my perception. But if I'm not giving you perception, I'm giving you time to connect to the information. That means you're trying to create your own perception. Now using that perception, I'm giving you my own perception, so you're blending that information together. That means you will be able to retrieve to that information for much more longer. Now it's up to you how frequently use that information. More you use that information, more you will use that connection, and more you will build up that connection. Now these are the instructions. Read it, try to solve it, and if you're not able to solve it, talk with your colleagues. Talk to Steve. Steve solved it pretty quick when we came here.
Others.
Can you give us some hands, Steve?
I can see it works.
Now, as an activity conclusion, we will revise what we have done, what we have understood, and we will try to fill out our bingo sheet. We have already filled in 2 first quadrants in our bingo sheet with 2 learning principles, which is number 1, movement trumps setting,